Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this session, No Power, No AI. My name is Michael Wang. I'm with China Global Television Network, CGTN. Just some quick housekeeping first. If you are sharing highlights from this discussion, please feel free to use the hashtags AMNC26 and AI Energy. So today's session is part of the forum's AI Energy Impact Initiative, which is under the AI Global Alliance initiative. And I think today we are going to be exploring one of the defining questions of the AI era. And that is, can our energy systems actually keep pace with our AI ambitions? Now, I think many people in this room might have encountered that key projection from the International Energy Agency. So the IEA projects that global electricity consumption from data centers will double from 415 terawatt hours that we saw in 2024 to around 945 terawatt hours by the year 2030. So that's roughly around the annual electricity consumption of Japan, which is the world's 5th largest electricity consumer. Now, the forum estimates that might rise to 1,200 terawatt hours by the year 2035. So that would be roughly equivalent to the annual electricity consumption of the world's 4th largest electricity consumer, Russia. China and the United States combined together are projected to account for nearly 80% of total global data center electricity growth. So needless to say, I think we need to explore not just about how do we build more AI, but how do we build the energy systems that AI will require, but also crucially, how do we build these systems in a way that strengthens instead of strains our existing energy systems, economies, and societies. And I think that is also the central idea behind the forum's net positive impact vision. And this is a vision in which the energy and the resource savings enabled by AI actually exceed the cost of the energy and resources used to power AI. And if you want to understand more about the forum's work on AI and energy, feel free to scan the QR code, which is going to be on the screen right now. That QR code, you can understand more about the forum's AI energy framework by scanning that QR code. Lots of great reports there, and there's also a wonderful repository of some 140 real-world use cases about the nexus of AI and energy. All right, let me now introduce our fantastic panelists who will be joining us to speak about this topic. We are joined by His Excellency Nyamaso Ruchtrao, Prime Minister of Mongolia. We're also joined by Robin Zeng, who is the founder, chairman, and CEO of the world's largest battery maker and clean energy tech giant CATL. Samaila Zubairu is president and CEO of the Africa Finance Corporation. And Dr. Vanessa Chan is the inaugural Vice Dean of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at UPenn. So, University of Pennsylvania. So thank you all for joining us on the panel today. Now, before we get the discussion started, I want to ask you, the audience, 2 very quick questions first. No pressure. All you have to do is raise your hand, okay, just to see where we are on this topic. And the first question is, how many of you in the audience think that energy and grid capacity will indeed be one of the major constraints on AI growth in the next 5 years? Show of hands. Less than I thought. Okay, so I would say maybe about 70%. 70% of the room believes that this will be a major constraint. Okay. Second question is, how many of you believe that AI infrastructure will ultimately strengthen and accelerate our energy systems rather than straining it? Show of hands. Will accelerate and strengthen our energy systems rather than strain it? Less hands, I would say. Maybe about 50%. Okay. All right, so that or 40% maybe, I would say, 40%-ish. So that's where we stand with this topic, and let's dive right in, yeah? I want to leave maybe about 15 to 20 minutes for audience Q&A afterwards, so get your questions ready. The first part of this discussion I want to focus on is assessing whether or not our energy systems are indeed ready for AI. And Mr. Prime Minister, let me start with you first, because Mongolia has a digital-first policy. And through that policy, Mongolia is aiming to attract AI infrastructure investment into the country. Mongolia, of course, has tremendous renewable resources, currently underdeveloped, I would say, right? Massive solar energy potential, massive wind potential. You have a naturally cool climate. So you have, I would say, natural factors that can make Mongolia a very compelling destination when it comes to building energy-efficient AI data centers. Talk to us about what are the most important conditions for Mongolia to really make sure that your energy system is ready for the AI future.
Okay. A very good afternoon, all of you. Thank you so much for inviting me in this panel. Within 80 days since I became Prime Minister, within only 80 days, I initiated, our government of Mongolia is working to increase the investment on two areas, in digital infrastructure and renewable energy. The first step, we have to submit the legal framework about the renewable energy and, of course, about digital infrastructure. It's all about data sovereignty. In this parliamentary session, we will submit those, the legal environment, and our government of Mongolia, our main aim to work to improve the business environment. We initiated around 100 laws. It's all about the business environment. When we invite investors for Mongolia for renewable energy and digital infrastructure, the legal framework is very important. Recently, I have met with Mr. Robin a few minutes ago. I mentioned about Mongolia. He already invested in Mongolia in two AMAC, in the two provinces, as a strategic investor in the solar resources, but he never been to Mongolia. And I invited him to Mongolia, and I mentioned that almost 70% of all the 365 days are sunny and windy. In Mongolia, we have 4 seasons, the cool weather, and the Mr. Robin and any other investors, if you want to invest in Mongolia for renewable energy and digital infrastructure, and we will suggest very suitable the legal environment. And I would like to say that the words for the investors, host data centers. If you want to work in Mongolia, you have a few advantages. The first, so Mongolia is a non-aligned, is a democratic country with a strong interest, becoming a trusted digital and energy partner. The second, the data sovereignty is one of the Mongolia's biggest advantage. Companies seek secure and strategically located data infrastructure. The third, the Mongolia has significant land availability. 90% of land is state-owned. The fourth one, the Mongolia is a landlocked country, as you know, but Mongolia is a land-linked country to China. It's very near to China, one of the largest markets in the world, the global leader in the battery, the electric vehicle, AI, the clean technology, and advancing the manufacturing. When you make a business, when you invest in Mongolia, you can link to China. It's the big opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Prime Minister, a real quick follow-up. So if an investor is interested in Mongolia, how fast do you think the regulation, the permitting might take right now, given such an emphasis on your country in terms of building up that digital infrastructure? Give us a sense of the timeline.
It's all about the licensing, or
yeah. How fast might that take? The pace.
It's
fast enough.
It's fast enough.
Okay. But anyway,
we will try.
Okay, we're going to keep a lookout for potential.
Because our government of Mongolia, my cabinet, our main goal is, it's all about the red tape reduction.
All about red tape.
Unlock initiation. It's all about how do we reduce the bureaucracy. It's all about to improve business environment. There are 4 types of unlock for economic opportunities. Second, for unlock for deregulation, unlock for green transition. The fourth one is unlock for anti-corruption. It's about the good governance. Of course, we save time.
Yeah. Well, either way, we're going to take a look at future news, future cooperation between Mongolia and, I guess, CATL.
I think fast enough.
Fast enough. Round of applause for fast enough for Mongolia. Very good. Dr. Chan, let me come to you. Maybe you want to add a few comments about bureaucracy and what bureaucracy perhaps might mean for all of this. But you were previously the Chief Commercialization Officer and also the Director at the Office of Technology Transitions at the U.S. Department of Energy. And basically, I guess the mission there is how do we commercialize, right, the clean technologies in the DOE's national laboratories found around the country. So you are really at the nexus between scientific discovery and commercialization, bringing into the marketplace solutions from clean tech. What do you think are the most critical energy innovations in order to power the AI future?
Well, first of all, very exciting to hear Mongolia is going to be leading the way and being very fast and permitting. So I want to make sure all the people out there heard that. I think that as you look at where the energy needed for AI and data centers, there's a need to be innovating everywhere. And oftentimes people are feeling like the infrastructure is what's holding things up. I personally think there's a new way to be thinking about this, where you have distributed energy resources, right? So what if instead of going onto the grid, right, and straining it, you're actually able to distribute the energy through batteries, through long-duration energy storage, and so forth, and then you can have situations where your car could be bidirectionally charging and bringing it back. An AI center could actually be a flexible place to bring energy back into the grid. So I think those kind of things are extremely important. I also think there's a need for geothermal, nuclear, very firm, clean loads, I think are super critical, because if we're able to do that, that would be really important. Oftentimes we talk about energy in terms of the generation side of it. I think we also have to think about the demand side of it. And here at Penn Engineering, some of the things that we're working on are ways to make the AI itself and the data center itself more energy efficient. So for example, Benjamin Lee is a professor at Penn Engineering who's thinking a lot about how do you actually create efficiency through architectures. So instead of having general models that are going to be responding to tasks, you have specialized models, which are much more energy efficient. We have a professor named Robert Radway, who's right now looking at ways in which we can have monolithic 3D chip configurations versus 2D. If you can do that, then it's going to be 4 times faster than 2D, which means that we're moving all the energy-intensive off-chip memory access to new architectures. So I think we have to look at both supply and demand as we think through this.
Dr. Chan, let me stay with you for a second. I think it might be a bit of an understatement to say that we are seeing an acceleration in terms of the AI build-out in the United States, but in terms of the US power generation capabilities, transmission, permitting, et cetera, certain parts of the US might be struggling a bit to keep pace with the AI infrastructure build-out. Can you give us a sense, give our audience a sense of what the United States perhaps is doing to ensure that its energy system can indeed match the pace of its massive AI ambitions?
So I think right now there's a big push with many states that are trying to lead the way around being creative around how to do things, right? I think we recently saw Fervo, which is geothermal, went public, the IPO, and the work that Tim Latimer's been doing. And I think we're looking at opportunities like places in Nevada where you have the geothermal to really make that an opportunity. There's also this new trend, which is BYOC. It's not BYOB anymore, it's BYOC, bring your own clean energy to the table. And so we're having hyperscalers and others who are actually starting to build out and bring the energy to the grid that they need. And so I think we're really seeing leaders like Google and others be very proactive around this. I really have to call it Minnesota. Minnesota is trying very hard to lead the way in affordability, in water as well as clean, and doing a lot of structurals within their state to lead the way. We're seeing people starting to push a lot on grid modernization as well. So I think across the areas, everyone's trying hard to be creative and also being creative in terms of how they engage the communities.
So Myla, let me come to you. ASC, of course, has tremendous experience in terms of financing energy, transport, all kinds of industrial infrastructure across Africa. What do you think are the earliest indicators for a market to know that indeed this market is AI energy ready?
Very good question. I'll start by providing some context. So in Africa generally, there's a decision by most governments and most businesses that we have to build the future now. So not into the future, but we're building now. And what that means is putting in place the right energy systems, not just for AI, but for industry and for productivity in the main. And what we generally look at is a combination of policy coordination from the government, as well as, I would say, industrial or large use offtake, of the energy, as well as proper transmission mechanisms, and then, of course, a tariff system that works, that ensures that people are paid on time. And also, more importantly, a kind of dispute resolution mechanism in place for disputes when things happen. And for that, we are looking at Africa's vast energy sources, which is, I would say, 60% of the best solar sources in the world are in Africa. Geothermal energy, she just mentioned, significantly in Africa, particularly in the Rift Valley and also in around Central Africa, where you have a lot of geothermal energy. Of course, we have hydropower as well. We have wind as well. And of course, we have natural gas. So all of these energy systems are in place. And what we do is that we finance them. Again, working with government, working with sponsors to ensure that we align all the policies in place. We have built the first wind farm in Cape Verde, first wind farm in Djibouti, first power plant in Ghana. And what that takes is ensuring that there's policy coordination, from the government, the private sector, and the regulation, as well as the offtake. Offtake is so important. And I would say that for Africa, we see the AI revolution as one of the things that should help accelerate offtake, because right now penetration is still very low, but there's huge need. I say that there's huge need because there is massive technology adoption in Africa. So a lot of young people are in Africa, and a lot of young people use technology, and that requires a lot of power systems, requires a lot of data centers. We're financing quite a number of data centers today, and we see a pipeline of even more data centers to power. So a combination of all of this would ensure that we have steady rising offtake, for power systems, which will in turn help the build out for data centers across the continent.
So Myla, let me stay with you. So massive, of course, clean energy potential to power AI data centers in Africa. What else is missing, do you think, to really scale up capital to invest in clean energy data centers in Africa? We were discussing behind the scenes, do we need more, perhaps, harmonization of countries regionally in Africa or something more?
Very good question. So Africa has very high cost of capital, and that's a constraint. And it's important that that is addressed because our research shows that there is quite some capital on the continent, over $4 trillion of domestic capital pools. Now, not all of it can directly go into projects because over $2 billion is in banking assets, and that is heavily regulated industry. But there's quite about over $1 trillion in pension funds and insurance funds that could go into projects. But most of those of the capital sits outside the continent. And when it sits outside the continent, transmitting back into the continent is a challenge, mainly because of regulation again. So capital is incentivized to stay outside the continent and not stay within the continent. We have what we call capital charge rules, whereby if you're investing in OECD countries, there's no capital charge or lower capital charge. But if you're investing in Africa, there's a much higher capital charge. That is for even African banks. So African banks, pay no capital charge when they invest outside the continent, but they pay a high capital charge when they invest in the continent. That is a clear mismatch that needs to be addressed. Otherwise, the cost of capital will remain very high. And we say this because recent research has proven that Africa is not as risky. There's the Global Emerging Markets Database, which shows that the default rates in Africa are one of the lowest in the world. More importantly, the recovery is one of the highest in the world. So, for example, government recovery rate is over 90%. Private sector debt over 70%. So a combination of low default rates and high recovery rates makes African debt one of the best performing in any asset class. And why is that so? That makes it high, it makes it expensive. So we need to see a change in regulation to reflect the risk factors. And that needs to happen not in a forum like this, but maybe with proponents like Mr. Zhu, who wants to build out data centers in Africa eventually, seeking financing from Africa to build out those data centers.
Great. Robin, let me come to you. Give us the big picture here in China. How ready is China's energy system to power its next phase of the AI era?
I think China's situation is a little bit different. Number one, China, the grid and the energy system is just so mature for the industry. And adding up the AI data center consume not much electricity compared to China's growth. As a matter of fact, China probably every year, they're growing around, I think it's 7,000, 7,000 terawatt. So grid is no problem. The problem is in the power data center, do you want to go through the fossil energy or renewable energy? So if for the data center is a new category, if you want to power data center with renewable energy, then we have some suffering, some problem, because we need enough area to build the solar cell, solar panel, wind, and energy storage. And the China policy is a new data center, you have to use 80% of renewable energy. So this requirement is a good direction, but I think China can cope with this and deal with this as my information and my judgment.
Yeah, and that's really, I think, forcing companies like you to innovate in terms of how do we get clean energy to data centers. So maybe let me follow up in terms of what is your take on energy storage, the importance of energy storage to really make sure that our future AI energy systems are indeed clean.
Right. Energy storage is so important is because renewable energy, as you know, is unstable. So even in Mongolia, right, you cannot say it's the same power at every hours. 1 year, you have 8,760 hours. So every hour, you need a constant power supply. So you need a really balancing the renewable energy by energy storage. Then key question is, with renewable energy plus energy storage, the electricity cost is another important thing to competitiveness. That's why we need to find the good place. We have a lot of wind, a lot of solar, a lot of sun, like Mongolia and Inner Mongolia, all these areas. So we can put the energy storage together with the renewable energy. That makes sense to make sure the electricity feed is lower, equal, or even lower than fossil traditional energy. In that case, AI wouldn't be no problem for the energy.
Yeah. Robin, could you give us quickly a sense of how mature now energy storage technology is? Because CATL, you mentioned a very interesting statistic. CATL says that nearly 1 in 5 large-scale energy storage power stations around the world are currently underperforming. You're also innovating, I think, when it comes to sodium-ion energy storage as well. How mature are we on that stage?
If we define the mature, we can have 3 phases. First phase, it means you can really provide a whole system to support in large scale. What means large scale? For example, AI data center probably acquired a big data center, 1 gigawatt. So you can provide 1 gigawatt power with 8,760 hours. And the second is the cost effective. It means the electricity costs have to be equal or lower than traditional energy. The third, it have to be reliable and certainty. Because today, the mining, for example, lithium mining, you always have problem, right? Many countries say this is like a critical mineral, and they have a lot of policies and refined also. This control also have problem. It delayed the renewable energies applications for these DC. That's why Seattle have been invested a lot of money in the sodium batteries. So now, this year we can produce a large scale of the sodium battery, go to the energy storage. So we get rid of the lithium dependent. But we want to scale up this sodium battery. It take another 3 to 5 years to up to more than 100 gigawatt hour every year. Wow. Then we can support all the AI data center worldwide. Because when you're talking about AI data center needed of the electricity, actually it's not too much. 100 gigawatt hour is, for me, is for the biggest, the electricity use in the world is still a small number, 10%, 5%, right? So China is a very strong grid, can support the regular industry use. The AI data center using the renewable energy 80%. I think China is okay.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Robin. Let's talk about navigating the trade-offs in terms of how we can actually strengthen our energy systems rather than straining it. Mr. Prime Minister, let me come back to you. And I just want to get your take in terms of how you think about the trade-offs for Mongolia. On the one hand, attracting AI infrastructure investment, but on the other hand, guaranteeing energy security for your people and ensuring national development as well. How do you think about those trade-offs?
Okay, I think the first trade-off is between the demand and the energy security. Data centers need, the large and reliable and continuous power. So with we Mongolians, the electric shortage, it can place pressure on households, business, and public service. We should not attract data centers by simply consuming existing capacity. That we should attract projects backed by new renewable energy. The second trade-off is between resilience and speed. The investors want fast approval, the clear permits, and rapid project delivery. The governments must respond with the process, but without compromising grid stability and environmental standard or long-term planning. I will say that Mongolia's the energy capacity is only 1,900 megawatt. It's the almost size of the large scale one data center, right? For Mongolia, without reliable energy, AI development cannot scale. That's why I'm talking about diversify our economy, and the government of Mongolia. Our main goal is, we are make Mongolia the business ready, the environment. And that's why to unlock AI, we must first unlock energy. That's why we tried to diversify our economy and diversify the resource of the energy. We recently organized, the bidding for 5 packages of different 5 locations. Locations, almost 119 companies that participated in the first step, expressed the interest, 119, and 19 companies selected. They were invited to bid, and the 5 winners were announced. It's a very good step, and in future that we need to expand those energy resources.
You said Mongolia right now has about 1,900 megawatts.
Yeah, 1,900 megawatts. Yeah.
Megawatts of
It's the energy capacity.
Right. So, starting from a relatively lower base, I guess that's where the potential is, right, for investment, starting from a relatively lower base. Yeah. Dr. Chan, let me come to you. I was looking at a survey conducted by Gallup in just March of this year. And that survey showed that 7 out of 10 Americans oppose building an AI data center in their local areas. Nearly 5 out of 10 strongly oppose building a data center, AI data center in their locality. So I guess local communities, at least in the United States, some might see that the benefits of having an AI data center may not be as large as the costs. How do you get more community buy-in? Make sure the community buys in if an AI data center is built there, and also creating benefits for the wider energy system.
Great question, and here we call that NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Yeah.
And I think what we have to do is flip the question on its head and ask, why would someone want a data center in their backyard? And in the end, if you can reduce bills permanently and make things more reliable, then there is a desire for it. So there's also been surveys done that if you could actually flip it on its head, and if you have a data center, it means that your bills are drastically reduced, people actually get excited about that as an opportunity. I think the challenge is when a data center comes with no benefit to the community, there is no desire for that. And so right now we're seeing places that are really trying hard to have ratepayer protection so that when the data center is coming, they are going to ensure that there is protection. Virginia's been leading the way with some very complicated and sophisticated large load tariffs to ensure that's happening. And then there's others which are being super creative where they are asking hyperscalers and others to actually start funding batteries, heat pumps, electric vehicle charging, and others, so that when the data center comes to the community is actually benefiting on the other side. And if you can end up having this win-win situation, then I think it makes a ton of sense. There's also a trend towards something called grayscaling, where data centers are starting to take retired coal plants and things like that, and then have them become a digital hub. And so if there's ways to repurpose assets that are stranded, that's another win for a community. So I think instead of going straight and asking someone, do you want a data center, your first reaction would be absolutely not. But if you reframe it and say, wait, what if I could give you cheaper electricity? What if I could give you this, what if I could give you that? Then they see the benefit, and I think the equation changes.
I would like a data center. But
where do you live again?
anyway, Dr. Chan, let me stay with you. And I want to ask you, should AI infrastructure companies, you think, bear the full incremental costs of the power generation and grid infrastructure they require? Or if they can provide more affordable electricity, perhaps some of the costs that they do incur, some of the more pressures that they apply on the grid can't be perhaps shared among existing households and businesses, existing ratepayers?
Yeah, so I'm someone who's a pragmatist, and I believe that costs should follow benefits. And so in the end, if there's project-specific costs, the data center should be paying for it, because in the end, there's a benefit that they are getting there. If in the end there is going to be broader grid benefits, right, then potentially the community or the state may want to help with that. But in the end, I think it goes down to where are we seeing the benefits and how do we ensure that those benefits are commensurate with where the money is going. So if you take a look at Indiana, Michigan Power, they announced a base rate reduction through customer benefits plan, where they tied the load growth and revenue from large customers, including data centers. And Georgia Power right now is showing that large customers can actually fund clean resources and receive energy value credits. So we do know that data centers are capital intensive, but they can be a very, very strong local tax base if they're taxed correctly. And so I think it's really important to be looking holistically at the entire economic value proposition.
So should regulation perhaps reward data centers, Dr. Chan, that offer flexibility to the grid if the grid is seeing perhaps periods of stress?
Absolutely. I think data centers need to not be seen as a passive load, but being seen as part of a dynamic system. And the more that we think about data centers as a dynamic system which can flex, can really help with a situation when if you're going to have a brownout, you basically turn off the data center and have that energy go back to the grid. If they're BYOC, they brought their own clean energy, then they can actually be bringing back to the grid at times of crisis. And so I really think we need to think about how distributed energy resources, DERs, are not just market participants, but are actual planning assets, right, that are helping with the grid and helping with some of the load challenges that we have. And we see examples of this throughout. You know, we talked about Nevada, where they have geothermal, solar, batteries, transmission, flexible data centers. And I think in the end, we really have to think about flexibility itself as the infrastructure. We think too much about the wires and all that, but flexibility itself becomes an actual asset.
That's a great point. So Mila, let me come to you, because Africa as a whole, I think, still has limited power capacity relative to its population. population of 1.5 billion plus and fast growing. So how is Africa thinking about attracting AI infrastructure investment, energy investment, while balancing other very urgent development priorities?
Very good question. So for us in Africa, the AI story is not just a technology or digital story, it's also an infrastructure story. And because Africa sits at the convergence of the key megatrends, such as the fast-growing population that we have, young growing population, the critical resources, critical minerals that are required for technology, abundant renewable energy sources, we're thinking around how to fast-track both the energy build-out as well as the data center build-out, as well as the AI adoption. AI adoption has kind of proven, I would say, successful in terms of improved productivity, because we can see impacts from education. So for example, a child in Africa today, has same access to knowledge as a child here in China, a child in Boston. So that is significant improvement and something that we want to keep apace with trend. So because of that, we're looking at a lot of additional investments in infrastructure in the main, because of the abundant energy sources that exist. We're looking at investments in transmission infrastructure. And we have an advantage. The advantage we have is that we don't have legacy systems. So this whole idea about distributed power is something that is readily used in Africa, and it's something that most of the data centers actually deploy. So it's for me, I would say, it's not just a technology or digital story, it's an infrastructure story. And the fact that we're building out our energy systems for both industrialization and technology is what is going to make us successful. Because like you mentioned, we are 1.5 billion people today, well, we're going to 2.5 billion people. And how these 2.5 billion people are connected, it's a key focus for us, and ensuring that we have the right energy systems in place, the right technology in place, because of the nature of the demographic, which is mainly young, and this market for AI, digital. We're making sure that we're building the future now.
You have to use AI as a catalyst to further build out your energy systems,
Exactly.
maybe not an either or.
Yeah.
Robin, let me come back to you. How do you think China is thinking about building out this AI infrastructure that's needed to power the country's AI future, but at the same time strengthening the wider grid so the grid can be more accessible, more reliable, even more reliable, more affordable?
Yeah, the AI requirement of energy, as just explained, China grid is very strong, very stable. We never have such kind of suddenly blackout. So it's happy to live in there, but somehow it's also the cost. So with the AI technology we're already using for some data center or some area, it's very good. We already can have the AI bidders, auto bidders, to buying some of the low-cost electricity from grid and supply to our manufacturing plants, and also keep the manufacturing plants very stable. So one of the examples is we have, we have a lot of manufacturing plants owned by our company. So with one manufacturing plant, we apply this AI auto bidder and energy storage, already save around 30% of electricity fee annually. So I'm happy with that. And the second thing is, with renewable energy coming more, then you have more energy storage, you have more EV cars. So this car also can support the vehicle to grid. In the meantime, we have made a lot of swapping stations now for the passenger car and heavy-duty trucks. Those batteries, big batteries, very large capacities. When you put together in the swapping station in nighttime, is energy storage equipment to help to balance renewable energy. And looking forward, we think about this EV car. You have energy, you have computer, you have chips. So EV car, one day, you can become a token factory. A whole car can be a token factory too, because you're driving your car only 1 hour. You put the car 23 hours, right? didn't use your battery, didn't use your chips, didn't use your calculation power, so computing power. So can use that as a token factory if you do the technology right. So in China now have more than 40 million cars already EV. We are looking for more and more EV, more and more token factories. It's like a distributed token factory for everyone. So when you buy a car, it's not only can save money from electricity and compared to gas, you also can create a token factory for you. So looking forward to that.
Car as a token factory.
Right.
Nice. Let's talk about now, how do we define success, right? We've talked about our energy systems ready.
Right.
We've talked about trade-offs, but how do we actually define success? And Mr. Prime Minister, I want to come back to you. If we look 5 to 10 years down the road, what kind of outcomes do you think Mongolia will be tracking to make sure that these AI infrastructure investments did really deliver lasting value for your citizens, for your businesses, for national development at large?
By our unlock policy, by green transition, we announced 100 new program. It's like 100 different locations. It's all about the electronic car, about fast charging. 100 megawatt for the herders, people who lives in the rural areas in Mongolia, and they can use the solar panel and the battery storage. And also 100 different the location. And that program is it's very suitable for the people. And now in Mongolia, now we have only 1,000 electronic car in our capital city now. It's only 1,000. And by new tax law, we suggested to the investors, suggested to the consumers for the tax deduction for all electronic car. And our state of bank, we suggest to the consumers about the loan for the electronic car. And hope so that after 5 years, the number of electronic cars will be increased 100,000.
From 1,000 to 100,000?
At least 10,000.
10,000.
At least 10,000 the electronic car. Let's hope so. And as I mentioned about the open bidding for the different locations, and next year we will announce that the open bidding, it's all the process is transparent, and we will select those companies as same as those 5 companies, and hope so that renewable energy, the capacity is going to be increased by twice at least after 2 years.
Great. Sounds like a great roadmap, a very ambitious roadmap, and I'm sure Mongolia is going to achieve it.
Thank you.
Dr. Chan, let me come back to you. Let's just go down the line in terms of what success looks like to you, in terms of the nexus of AI and energy. And I would assume it's not just about technology, it's about people too. So what kind of collaborations do you think are the most important to ensure that we have an AI energy-ready future?
So in the end, it's ecosystems that bring technologies to market. It's not one single entity, and you need the communities to be bought in. So for me, success is where you have a new playbook, where we're co-designing power, storage, and computing from day one. And we are able to get to things where it's more affordable for the average human in order to get the electricity that they need. So for me, as I think about our ability to scale new technologies, it's all about affordability. Because if you can make energy affordable, then everyone is going to want it if it's clean. And if we're able to do that in a way where it's beneficial to the community, then I think that's when we get to win-win. So in my mind, it's engaging the entire ecosystem, from a family to the hyperscalers, to the people who are building these, to the utilities. And in the end, if we're able to do that, that's when I think we're actually able to make this work.
affordable energy. Samaila, let me come to you. From Africa's perspective, how do you define success?
Jobs. Jobs. How we can use AI to improve planning, improve delivery, to transform the economies, to create more jobs. Like I mentioned, we're going to have 2.5 billion people in Africa by 2050. That's just 24 years from now. And 1 of every 4 people on earth is going to be African. So dignity and prosperity, productive, gainful jobs for 2.5 billion people is not just an African problem, it's a global problem. So for us, success is how we can use AI to power that future.
And Robin, over to you. What would a successful energy system here in China look like for the AI era? I mean, the energy build-out in China, I feel, is just absolutely staggering. This country is looking at offshore wind, more nuclear, more solar, more wind, everything. But what does a successful energy system here in China look like for you for the AI era?
Yeah, I would love to see renewable energy become the majority of the electricity supply in China. If not 100%, at least 80%. So this is important for improve the climate change. And also for the AI era, it should be benefit to everyone. Otherwise, it's to concentrate. For example, US sure is leading in AI. Then now the company make a lot of investments, and also the industry become, too much concentrate. This is not good for Africa, not good for, rest of the world. So we should have some, we call a balancing ecosystem to make sure AI benefit everyone in this planet. This is what we call success.
Where AI and energy is broadly diffused around the world.
Right.
We've got about 13 minutes left. I want to open the floor now to questions. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. And a brief question and which organization you represent, and then we'll go from there. How about the lady in front first, in pink? And please also state who you want to address the question to.
Yes. Hi, Reba Adoji here, YGL class of 2026. So my question is for Mrs. Zubairo, naturally. Africa has historically been an importer of technology after it's been built elsewhere. And with AI driving unprecedented investment in power infrastructure, in your opinion, what would it take for Africa to become a builder of the underlying energy systems rather than simply being a consumer of technology that it itself, the continent, enables?
We'll do one at a time. Go for it, Summer.
So very good question. And I'll just tell you that you'll be surprised that Africa is not just going to be a consumer of technology. Africa is actually building technology, and I tell you why. So if you see the innovations out of fintech, payments, it came from Africa. Why? Because we don't have the infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So the fact that we don't have infrastructure is a significant area for innovation, and we see that happening. So mobile money came from Africa because we don't have branches. So it's the same way we would be building out several other things. We have a digital free zone authority in Lagos that we're building out now. And the whole idea about that is to harness innovation, to see how we can use technology to solve most of our problems. And it's happening, it will continue to happen. You'll be surprised to know that the largest users of internet ChatGPT is African. It's not Chinese or Israel, it's Africa. So technology adoption in Africa is massive. We'll see a lot of innovation from Africa.
Great. The lady over there, please. First row.
Hi, I'm Sarah Fleischer. I'm the founder of 2Zero. We do battery recycling. We actually work together with Rump. Robin, this is a question to you. For any founder who's out there in their 30s, what company do you suggest them to found? I mean, you're like Elon Musk in our battery world. What do you think is the next era to be that next Elon Musk in our ecosystem?
I didn't talk about this because the most important is what's your target for the innovation, or what's your target to fund a company. So first target, maybe you are poor, you want to fund a company to become wealthy, right? Then your second thought is how you really can create a value to to the society, to the everyone of the world for a better future.
Okay, thank you.
This gentleman right here in the white shirt.
Thank you. With 21st Century Business Herald, two questions. One question for Prime Minister of Mongolia. We know that Mongolia has world-class wind and polar potential, and I was wondering what's your specific plans for the cooperation between Mongolia and Chinese companies like CATL or and beyond. And 另一个问题是问曾毓群董事长的，就想问一下，就是因为一般来说现在
Another question goes to the Robin, and I want to know that a lot of people concerned about overinvestment on the data center because there are a lot of chips and other high-tech stuff, and the upgrade goes quickly. So in the future, what do you think about any great breakthrough at a certain moment? Do you think that such a massive investment could realize a smooth transition, or do you think this will be a disruptive innovative disruption?
Between Mongolia and China when it comes to, I guess, renewables development and renewable companies working together? The potential for China-Mongolia renewables cooperation.
Yeah, I mentioned the land link to China, right? And there are the big potential on the AI, the electronic vehicle, and different sectors in the China. And you can work in Mongolia, you can invest in Mongolia, and you can export your products through Mongolia to China. And that's why our government of Mongolia working to improve our business environment. 1 month ago, we announced the e-business, the platform. It's in English language. When you want to make a business in Mongolia, you can register your company by online, and you can take some advantage, deduct your tax, and you can pay tax, register company, and you can buy the property, and you can do it, even you don't go to Mongolia.
Okay, great. Robin?
Answer was Chinese, right?
Chinese.
你说的这个问题呢？
So the question you mentioned is about. So whenever we have a new technology, when this technology becomes disruptive, I believe that the pace of the technology is very important for an investor. This is important skill. It is not that every sector is correct one, and you keep investing. And for example, the real estate, and people say for a while, making investment in real estate is always correct, but there is a moment you need to stop. Technology is the same, no matter it is old or new. If you make investment in the coal-based power station, scale up the coal-based power, you know it is against the trend. Whenever we create our company or invest in an innovative technology, we will look at the maturity or readiness of the technology. For example, the maturity of the technical roadmap, the product, the commodity, and then we can make the decision in terms of scale up, or you need to wait for the next disruptive technology. This is a critical decision. You need a great insight. You need to have great insight into the innovative technology. So what is your judgment and what is your judgment in terms of the solid-state battery? In terms of the roadmap between 1 to 9, I think it's level 4. And it is quite mature. That is one technical roadmap. But once the technical roadmap is fixed, you need to consider, do you need to have such a massive supply? And is it reliable? Is it safe enough to meet the requirement? The other thing is the commodity roadmap, which means that how about market acceptance? How much you can sell? If you provide a lot, but can you sell so many? And this is one of the roadmap.
You talked about the technology readiness of a technology, but what is important to know is it's not just whether or not the technology works. There's other adoption risks you have to go over. And so when I was at the Department of Energy, we created something called adoption readiness levels, which takes into account things like unit economics, the workforce, whether or not you have a critical material supply issue, whether you need regulatory permitting. So for those of you who are looking for new technologies, you have to assess the adoption readiness alongside technology readiness, because TRLs were invented by NASA in the 70s to launch rockets to the moon. The only thing they cared about was, does the rocket actually land safely on the moon? You didn't need a permit to land on the moon. You didn't care about the cost of the rocket. And so when early stage technology, talking about, I'm at TRL 9, so therefore everyone should buy it, they're missing so many other risks. So for those of you who are looking to scale a technology, please look at adoption readiness levels, because if you can't get to an ARL 9, you will never deploy your technology.
Great. Thanks for that, Dr. Chan. Is there a question from this side of the room before I head to the other side again? No. OK. This gentleman here in the first row in the gray jacket.
So this is Kun Tang from Hana Battery. So this question for Robin. So yeah, I'm also your junior lab mate, Shidi. Yeah. So I have a question on the AIDC requirement. So do you think there's some new demands in this field to compare with the conventional energy storage for the whole energy system? And the second question is that, do you think sodium battery is there's some unique advantage in this specific application? Thank you.
For the energy storage for the AI data center, sure, they will increase the requirement demand of the energy storage. But in my mind, it's not that much. When we talk about 100 gigawatt hour, right? 100 gigawatt, if you apply the 10 hours long-term energy storage in average for AI DC center, it's only 1,000 gigawatt hour. You know, Seattle shipment last year is 660 gigawatt hour already. So this year probably we're over 1,000 gigawatt hour. So 1 year production capacity already can cover the 100 gigawatt hour data center need of energy storage. So for me, it's not that big. The big area is if we change from the traditional energy all to the renewable energy, then the energy storage is very massive. It's very big. And the second thing is about the unique of the data center energy storage. Because the data center, the chip is so expensive, and the training of the model is really need really, really high security, the certainty. So very important is the battery can really handle the very high voltage and high SOC, high power, high temperature, and constantly support the safety. Once the battery fire, probably costs not only small, you know. We said that if you have a chicken, you have this, right? It's so soy, right? If the chicken is a problem, you have to pay the whole chicken. You're only selling the soil. So important thing is the reliability and safety of the energy storage. The second is the performance to handle the fluctuation of power requirement of the whole data center. This is quite unique.
Okay, we are almost out of time, but real quick, I want to get just one sentence from every single one of our panelists, the one piece of advice, one sentence that you would give governments in terms of how do we have positive outcomes when we invest in energy to power our AI future. Mr. Prime Minister, let's start with you.
The lesson from Mongolia is very simple, and we should not plan not only AI. We will also talk about the cutting the red tapes, the legal environment, easing permits, making the process clear for private sectors is half of the success. Judging from the result of unlocked policy by our government.
Okay.
Welcome to Mongolia.
Welcome to Mongolia, indeed. Cutting red tape. That deserves a round of applause. Robin, over to you. One sentence, one piece of advice.
Less geopolitical calculation, more cooperation will bring a better future for all.
We need a round of applause for that as well. That definitely deserves a round of applause. Samaila?
Build the future now.
Build the future now.
Build the future now.
Great. Dr. Chan?
We are private sector led but government enabled. So the government should enable things the private sector can't do.
Sounds great as well. We have about 15 seconds. I actually have one final question to all of our audience. Again, all you need to do is just a show of hands. How many of you in the audience believe that in our quest to search for power and energy to power our data centers, that this is going to take us beyond Earth, that in the future, maybe 20 years from now, we are going to see commercial scale data centers in space? Show of hands, who believes in that future? 20 years time. Wow, a decent amount, 40%-ish.
No, more like 12.
Decent amount. Maybe that can be a topic for the next year's annual meeting of the New Champions Data Centers in Space.
Because, I mean, there's so much energy on Earth.
Exactly.
You have the whole Sahara Desert.
The full Sahara Desert. So let's first build out the data centers in the Sahara Desert first, and then we'll think about space.
You heard it
Okay. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us in this session, and a round of applause for our panelists, please. Thank you all.